Okay, I'm ready, hon.
You gonna hold it for the whole time?
Yeah.
What do you want to do about supper or anything? I don't either.
President is notching a temporary Supreme Court win on construction of the White House ballroom complex.
It's a lawsuit that should have never been even allowed to be brought.
Chief Justice John Roberts allows construction to continue while the court considers a longer-term decision, and the Trump administration pivots from airstrikes to economic pressure on Iran.
We are going to squash the economy of this murderous regime.
As millions of Americans hit the road for the final weeks of summer, we'll ask Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy when they'll get relief at the pump. And
I have no idea why the Democratic Socialists, if you hate the Democratic Party so much, why don't use our name?
Tensions boil over in the Democratic Party as progressives flex their growing political muscle with a big upset in the Sunshine State. We'll ask Congressman Jake Auchincloss how this civil war could hurt or help his party's chances at the ballot box in November. Plus,
It's going to be the sight for the ages.
revving engines, checkered flags, and burning rubber take over the National Mall for the Freedom 250 Grand Prix.
It's an IndyCar street fight.
IndyCar driver Pato O'Ward shares his journey to becoming one of the fastest drivers on the planet. And I buckle up for a wild, high-speed preview of the big race. All right now on Fox News Sunday. IndyCar stars are getting ready for the big race around the streets of our nation's capital. We are live just a few feet away from turn 1 of the Freedom 250 Grand Prix. Let's begin with a look at some of your top stories today. Well, 50% U.S. tariffs on some Canadian goods went into effect this weekend after trade talks collapsed Friday. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says Canada will impose retaliatory tariffs against the U.S. starting September 8th, vowing to match U.S. tariffs dollar for dollar. A Texas judge has denied a new trial for Carmelo Anthony that happened Saturday. The 19-year-old was convicted of murder in June and sentenced to 35 years in prison for the April 2025 killing of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf at a high school track meet. Motorsport legend Jeff Gordon swept both 10-lap IROC races Saturday here at the Freedom 250 Grand Prix ahead of the main event today. Now, in just a moment, we're going to bring in Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, who was key to getting this thing done. First, Fox News correspondent Lucas Tomlinson is close to the action where some of the finest racing cars in the world being tuned up and ready for their drivers. Hey, Lucas.
Hey, Shannon, we're here in the paddock where IndyCar teams are preparing for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to race through the streets of the nation's capital. And this one counts. This is no exhibition. There's a title, points, and jobs on the line. Last week's race was in Canada, where President Trump is now waving the red flag on Canadian goods and moving ahead those 50% tariffs on the country.
We don't have new talks planned with the Canadians. We're moving forward with measures that respond to Canadian retaliation. Remember, as President Trump has introduced a trade policy to reshore American production and protect American jobs, 2 countries have retaliated against the United States, the People's Republic of China and Canada.
In recent days, the United States proposed new terms that were uneconomic, unfair, and undermined the net benefits for Canada. They asked too much, and they offered too little.
Back here in Washington, just down Pennsylvania Avenue, President Trump is racing to complete the ballroom after the Supreme Court ruling allowing construction to continue.
We're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on the ballroom, and it's all from people like me and great companies that are putting it up. No taxpayer money for the ballroom at all.
The president has called the ballroom a military complex with plans to install drones on the roof after multiple assassination attempts and threats on his life, including from Iran. President Trump says he's launching economic D-Day, spearheaded by his Treasury Secretary.
We are going to collapse this regime.
But first, we have a race to run. 25 drivers on the grid battling for the Freedom 250 Grand Prix title. 147 laps, 250 miles, the same distance from D.C. to New York, but in half the time. And 4 pit stops for gas and tires. On Saturday, Alex Palou, winner of 6 races already this season, won pole. We'll start in the top spot. Here's last year's IndyCar Rookie of the Year, Louis Foster.
Look, we don't know if this is going to happen again. It's almost going to be the only anniversary race. We don't know if we're ever going to come back to Washington DC just in general. So to be one of the 25 drivers supposed to do this is super cool.
This afternoon, President Trump will be taking a lap in the Beast to kick off the Freedom 250 Grand Prix here in the nation's capital, along with those flyovers, Shannon.
All right, Lucas Tomlinson down there in the action. Thank you so much, Lucas. And joining us now, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Shannon.
Welcome to Fox News Sunday.
It's great. This is my first time being on Fox News Sunday. It has to be America 250 and a road race before I get invited, but thank you for the invitation.
We love it. I mean, what a day to be here. You were a key player in actually getting this thing done. I mean, there was a point at which it didn't look like it was going to happen. The original course would have needed permission from Congress, couldn't get it.
Right.
How close do we come to not having it?
So that original course was supposed to go around the Capitol, between the Capitol and the Supreme Court. And we were days away because the barriers, as you see around the track, had to be ordered. They're expensive, and they have to be ordered in advance. And we had, I think, 3 or 4 days left to order them. And if we didn't get the order in, the event was going to go down. And that's when, our team, along with the Penske team, Bud Denker, said, hey, but isn't there another track you can use here? And he, in a snowstorm in DC, it was in January, he came out, he walked the track in a snowstorm and did this track, which, by the way, I think this is better. The view of the Capitol behind us, they can sell beer. By the way, this is the first time they're going to sell beer on the mall of the Capitol, food, festive, car race. So I think this venue is probably better than the original thought anyway.
Day drinking in DC, what could go wrong? I know that Bud has said he felt a bit of divine intervention as he was walking these streets in the cold of January and trying to come up with this. There's a lot of logistical stuff that has to happen that people may not realize. The Athletic report says there are 270 manhole covers on the course that needed to be fastened with a special clamp. 49 of them that were sunken into the ground, which requires them to be filled to the level of the road with a silicone epoxy. How does that get done?
So again, the Penske crew is amazing. They come in and not only secure the manhole covers, but around the manholes and other places, you have different rises and bumps on the roadway. This is a street. We all drive down Pennsylvania and around the mall. They had to actually grind the bumps out to minimize the cars getting any lift as they're going down the street. So a lot of work to make this track work as best as possible, but it is a street race, right? This is not an oval of the Indy 500. This is Washington, D.C., but they do want to make it as safe as possible, and so the work just to make this work as wonderful as possible for the drivers and safe as the drivers is what the Penske team has done. By the way, I want to be really clear. Penske's worked hard. We at DOT worked hard. Doug Burgum worked hard. None of this would happen without Donald Trump. You need a president who's going to say, Shannon, I want to celebrate this country's birthday. I trust the Penskes. I trust my cabinet. We're actually going to do it. And because the president leaned in, did the executive order, and helped clear the decks for everyone to get the job done, the permits filed, that's why it's happening, because we have a president who loves sporting events like this.
Well, and interesting to me, it's not a surprise that DC, the city itself, has very strong Democratic leadership running the city, but a lot of praise from them, council members, the mayor, and others who say this is a great benefit to DC. So it's been a bipartisan success in that respect.
Well, it has, because this is a time when everyone leaves DC. It's hot, as you and I are feeling right now, and the hotels are empty, the restaurants are empty. Hotels now are full. Restaurants are full. People are coming in from all over the country to their capital city, some for the first time ever, to see this IndyCar race. So the city is loving it. The mayor has been a great partner. This has been bipartisan all the way along. And I think if you talk to the Secret Service, they'll tell you that there haven't been any planned protests for this event. The first one in all of the 250 celebrations, because it's bipartisan, and road racing, who's going to protest that?
Well, so far we have not seen that. And it's not just about entertainment. The First Lady is also doing something in partnership with Fox Corporation and IndyCar that is aimed at making sure young people coming out of foster care will have a chance at a college education. I'm going to play a little bit of what she said about that this week.
Our mission is simple yet transformational. Provide every young person from the foster care community the chance to earn a college education, launch a meaningful career, and achieve lasting financial independence.
So it's a lot more than just a car race today.
It is, and I mean, the fact that the First Lady sees an opportunity like this to help kids who are less fortunate, to give them the opportunities that other young kids have with a holistic family, I think is a beautiful thing. And by the way, so you have people giving to the First Lady's cause, but this event doesn't also happen unless you have sponsors who give. This is an expensive race. It's free to the American people. If you got a ticket to come, you don't pay anything. You come here just because you got into the lottery and got a ticket. But that's because sponsors want to come in and help celebrate America's 250th birthday as well. The Penskes are probably the biggest donors, also helping out the First Lady as well. But millions of dollars were spent by them just to have the honor to put this race on in Washington.
Well, listen, they were just in Canada, and there's news this weekend of the trade issue that we have going on. Trade talks falling apart. Obviously, they're a major partner for us, back and forth across the borders, planes, trains, and automobiles. DOT has a lot to do with that. Is there anything in your position as Secretary of Transportation that you're thinking about with respect to a tool in this sort of trade war back and forth?
We're great trading partners, right? But Canada gets the benefit of trading with the U.S. way more than the U.S. gets the benefit of trading with Canada. It's a country that doesn't have a military. It has a country that has a single-payer healthcare system that's failing. They have record-high euthanasia rates. And so to think that they're going to go to war with Donald Trump and actually win that war with the U.S., I think it's foolish on their part. And again, I think what the president's trying to do with Jameson Greer, who, by the way, has done an amazing job representing the president and America, is we want fairness for the American worker. And some of our best friends are the worst offenders that treat us the worst. And the fact that we provide their security for them and they take advantage of us, I think President Trump was the first one to go, you know what, that's not the kind of relationship that friends should have. And so the president's calling them out. I think you're going to see Mark Carney come to the table very, very quickly because it's going to be devastating for his country.
Well, nothing on the table as far as talks are concerned. A lot of finger pointing. Right. So we'll keep tracking that. I want to get to you with a couple news stories too. CDL drivers. We have covered a number of these tragic cases where people have been driving these large trucks, these large vehicles, and either they're here illegally, they don't speak or read or understand English, or in some other way they've gotten a license they shouldn't have. You have started a crackdown here. You've asked for a lot of information, 17 million or so different people, the licensing information. You've got 22 states now suing over that. I want to read from their complaint. They say it's now clear that the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration has not been candid about its purposes in seeking the data, and in fact intends to share the data with DHS for immigration enforcement purposes. They go on from there to say that there could be action taken against people or against the states based on information that may not be, it may be incomplete, it may be erroneous. So what is the plan? Are you planning to share this with DHS? How do you respond?
So my plan is I want to make sure that if I have drivers driving an 80,000-pound big rig on an American road endangering an American citizen, I want them off the American road. They don't deserve to have a license. They should not have a license. And if these states, by the way, this is the tell. If they say we're concerned that DOT would share this with DHS, they must know that the data they have is data that shows that they have issued driver's licenses to illegal immigrants. We feel very comfortable that that is what they've done. We want to make sure they revoke those licenses. So I want well-trained drivers who meet the rules of DOT.
Absolutely.
They speak English, they're in the country lawfully, and if they're not, by the way, they didn't go to a sham school. We shut down 8,000 truck driving schools that basically you pay $800 or $1,000. They have no curriculum, they have no trucks, and you just get a certificate that you pass the driving course. Listen, it's been the Wild West in this industry. We're going to crack down and make sure it's safe for the American people. What's hard for us, though, is I don't have like an FBI. I don't have a massive force of law enforcement. I have to work with the states and the state patrol. And if they don't partner with us, we have tools. We'll pull money. We can go so far as to pull their ability to issue commercial driver's license, and we will do that if they don't cooperate.
We'll watch the legal fight. Mr. Secretary, thank you for coming in.
Thanks,
Enjoy the race. Okay, Democratic Socialists score another big upset, this time in Florida, and many establishment Democrats are not happy about it. Massachusetts Congressman Jay Auchincloss joins us on the growing tensions inside his party. He's next.
Figures in the Democratic Party today are Democratic Socialists, and I want to make sure that we're continuing to advance an agenda that the Democratic Socialists of America embodies.
I wish they'd take the word Democrat out of their name. I have no idea why the Democratic Socialists, if you hate the Democratic Party so much, well, no, use our name. Go think of your own name.
DSA candidate Oliver Larkin, who lost his primary bid, but says the movement within the Democratic Party is just beginning. As longtime Democratic strategist James Carville says the DSA needs to get out of his party. Joining us now, Massachusetts Democratic Congressman Jake Auchincloss. All right, welcome back to Fox News Sunday. We hear a lot of people echoing what Carville has had to say there. The Nation writes this, that the DSA uses the Democratic Party as a ballot access vehicle while organizing against the party's leadership, donors, and ideological constraints. So some in your party say it's big tent, there's room for the DSA. What's your position?
2/3 of Americans, Shannon, are fed up with this administration, the most corrupt in American history. And for Democrats to take back the House and Senate and to put checks and balances on this administration, we need to welcome in voters of all stripes who want to make their anger known at the ballot box. That does not mean the Democratic Party shares the DSA platform. We do not. The Democratic Party's platform prioritizes financial freedom for Americans. That means stabilizing health premiums. That means making it more affordable to buy a home. And that means taking on the corruption of this administration that has seen this president's cryptocurrency holdings balloon past $1.5 billion.
Okay, but the question gets to be what you're willing to tolerate. The Washington Post, not a conservative group over there, the editorial board has a warning saying this: the Democratic establishment has tried to accommodate itself to the rise of the DSA by saying it supports a big tent movement. The DSA doesn't mind being welcomed into American institutions. After all, you have to control an institution, say the Senate, to abolish it, and eventually Democrats might find their own party is on the menu. Is that a risk you think that's being taken seriously inside the party?
Yes, and the most important word in that whole paragraph was the word establishment. If this is framed as a battle between the establishment and the DSA, the establishment will lose, and candidly, rightfully so, because Americans are angry at the status quo. What my faction of the party needs to do is to demonstrate to Americans what our positive, proactive agenda is to strengthen the middle class, how we are going to base that in freedom, not socialism, free enterprise, free minds, freedom from fear, and free elections.
Nonsense.
So there is a video of somebody who's been campaigning a lot with Democratic candidates or Democratic socialist candidates who say they belong in your party. Hassan Piker, he's not disavowed this video that's out there circulating this weekend where he's singing a song that appears to be mocking the death of Charlie Kirk, of people who would, be worshipped as Christians, worshiping Jesus. What's your message to those within your party who are campaigning, fundraising, and appearing with Hassan Piker?
I reject Hassan Piker's ideology, whether it was seeming to celebrate or at least excuse 9/11, whether it is seeming to excuse the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which I condemned immediately. The Democratic Party does not stand for what Hassan Piker stands for. The Democratic Party also needs to be able to reach young voters from all walks of life who are angry at a status quo in which they cannot afford to buy a home, in which they do not believe Social Security will be there for them in their retirement, and in which they see corruption run rampant in Washington, D.C. And we need to go out there and communicate with this younger generation on the basis of a new American dream, in which with hard work and with fair play, you get an excellent education by 18, you get a home of your own by 30, and you have a dignified retirement by 65.
Okay, let's get into this, because another part of the DSA platform has been a lot of anti-Israel language, anti-Zionism, however you want to term that. Weeks ago, you voted for an amendment by Congressman Massey. It was called the No Funds for Israel. Jewish Insider reported on an event that was held in your district, and listen, you showed up. You took some tough questions, but they quote Lisa Cole. She says, they say she's a former board chair of Prisma who said she's known and supported Auchincloss for years, says she was shocked, surprised, slightly hurt, and a little angry, as were a lot of other people at that meeting. And so the question becomes, are you being pushed further left, even as a Jewish American yourself, when it comes to policies regarding Israel?
No. I strongly support Israel's right to defend itself against the terrorists to its south and to its north, and of course to the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism, which is Iran. What I reject is the catastrophic leadership of Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu that has led to this debacle in the Middle East against Iran. A 6-month war that was launched illegally, that was conceived incompetently, and that has been lost. And now what we must do is prevent this failed war from becoming a forever war, because a supermajority of Americans do not want another quagmire in the Middle East, and indeed 9 out of 10 Israelis think that this war has made Iran more powerful. I will refuse to appropriate any funds or any foreign military financing for Trump and Netanyahu
Shame
to
on
continue
you.
their decision-making that has made both countries less secure.
Well, how do you respond to one of your fellow Democrat congressmen, Brad Sherman, who says this? He said about that money that was zeroed out by the Massey Amendment, he said it's not an attempt to divert a large portion of money from Israel. It's an attack on the Israeli people. He said this was for defensive systems. Your response to him?
It's not. The vast majority of the $3.3 billion that would be foreign military finance through the State Department would go for F-35s and air targeting systems. Now, I don't make a distinction between offensive and defensive weapons, Shannon. I think that's a distinction that people who haven't served in the military will make. A weapon can be offensive or defensive depending on the tactics and the techniques at use. But what I will say is that when the U.S. taxpayer puts $3.3 billion credit card on the table, the U.S. taxpayer gets to have a say in how those funds are used. And looking at Trump and Netanyahu, those funds are being used disastrously.
And what did Obama send over?
That is a policy debate that will continue here in Washington.
Millions and millions of dollars
thank you for your time this
in
morning.
cash.
It is time now.
Shame on you.
Our Sunday group. So let's talk about that. Bloomberg News senior White House reporter Josh Wingrove, former special assistant to President Joe Biden and Megan Hayes, and Ruthless podcast co-host Josh Holmes. All right, panel, welcome. I want to circle back to this Hassan Piker video. We haven't independently, verified that, but he's not disowning it on his own social media. Megan, what does this mean for the party? Because there are a lot of candidates under the Democratic banner who are fundraising and campaigning and appearing on stages with him.
No, they should not be doing that. Absolutely not. Everything he says is disgusting. He's anti-Semitic. He's a misogynist. The Democratic Party should be disavowing him. Nobody should be campaigning with him. You're actually seeing some of the Democratic people who are running who were close to him in their primaries now distancing themselves, like Abdul Al-Sayed in Michigan. And so the Democrats should take note here. This is not what we want in our party. This is not the kind of person we want in our party. He does not represent us, and he should not represent anybody but his own words, and that is it.
All right, Josh, listen, Republicans are not wasting any time using these things for ads. They're talking about this group of DSA candidates who went down to Uruguay to, be with a number of progressive, super far left socialists down there. They're out there releasing statements and making campaign ads on this stuff. How bad is it for Democrats?
Well, the president is also leaning into it, Shannon. As you know, he sees an opportunity here to paint with a broad brush and say that this is, in fact, the true heart of the Democratic Party. I think the truth is not that. I mean, we're seeing a lot of juice from this in several districts, and obviously in Michigan in the Senate race as well. But the Democrats had a lot of moderates win their primaries as well in other states where you probably have to be more moderate to win. So I think the truth is, as always, a little more complicated, but it's given the president something to sort of look to at a time when other things are going against him, right? Midterms, of course, don't typically favor the party in power, and the polls are not looking very strong for them. So I think, more like broadly speaking, Democrats are a little bit tying themselves in knots. They don't really know what to do with it. There is a lot of juice in the DSA movement for them, but on the flip side, I think the sort of scale within the party is being distorted at times.
Okay, so let's talk about Republicans and the issues that they have now with the campaign, because we had some power ranking shifts. Let's put up these are for the Senate. Now, Michigan was taken from lean D to toss-up because of the debate about El-Sayed as a candidate there, Mike Rogers' strength against him. But Texas, which has not gone anything but red for a long time, we've moved it from lean R to a toss-up, and Kansas has gone from solid R to likely are. And Josh, there are a lot of questions about money. There's a ton of it. Republicans definitely have advantage there, but for a lot of folks, it feels like that money is sitting on the sidelines when it should be pouring into some of these states.
Yeah, no question. Let me first say, just on the Hassan Piker front, there are no takebacks in politics. You can't use Hassan Piker to go get yourself a nomination and be a standard bearer of the Democratic Party and then show up in the general election and pretend like you don't know who he is. And I think an awful lot of Democrats are trying to do that. On the Republican side, look, I don't think it's any secret. This is going to be an extremely difficult election. All of the environmental factors point to what should be a successful run for Democrats in a midterm. You start with the historical bias, obviously, of a party in power, but then you go through presidential approval rating, economy, and where some of these states are up, and it's a tough map. I think when it comes down to money, though, this really boils down to Texas. Republicans can win Texas and secure a Senate majority unquestionably with the electorate that is in Texas, but they're going to have to spend. And you look at all the various super PACs. MAGA Inc. is the one right now that has not made any reservations. And we enter into September, they got $400 million. It gets pretty hard to spend that quickly. I wonder how that's going to impact Texas ultimately, because I think the outcome may be based on that.
Well, and down in Florida, there was an upset by the DSA candidate in the Democratic primary this week. It was, believed that Alexander Vindman was outspending her 16-1, that he was going to easily win that primary. It would have been more of a race, most people think, most analysts think, and Republicans would have had to maybe pour a little bit more money there into Florida. It may go other places now. What do you make of Angie Nixon's win?
I mean, I think she did the work. She was on the ground. She organized volunteers and she got out there and did the work. But I don't necessarily think that Democrats are going to play in Florida, right? We're going to focus in Ohio and in Texas and Alaska, in places that we actually can win and flip seats. And so I think that the Democratic money is going to go there. You also see candidates raising money. You also see some of these races like in Ohio and Texas. They have incredible governors that are also running with them, with Gina Hinojosa and Amy Action. And so that's also going to help these Senate seats and take these candidates across the board to do well in November. But those candidates are raising their own money. And so Florida, I don't think is in play for us.
All right, well, Josh, we know that in the midterms, it's a lot about generating your base, getting the excitement, and our polling shows us that the furthest left parts of the party out there are the ones who are most excited to vote, and they're showing up. They have the primaries.
Absolutely, and that is why you see Democrats tying themselves in knots, right? They don't want to alienate this part of their party, and we're seeing it play out in different ways in different states and in different districts. But I think, broadly speaking, Democrats right now, to speak to your tailwinds, right? Secretary Besson said that he wanted $3 gasoline by mid-September. We're nowhere near that, right? And so I think I don't want to overstate the influence of any one faction. I think there's sort of like corollaries between the Tea Party, for instance, was like within the Republican Party but had a lot of juice with it. But I think right now for President Trump, the challenge is those headwinds that Josh alluded to, and I think that those are going to continue in the coming weeks, and that's why we're waiting to see what money comes off the sidelines.
All right, panel, thank you very much. Don't go far. We have a lot of foreign policy hot topics for you. That is coming up. The bombing against Iran has stopped for now, and now President Trump is promising crushing economic operations. So we're going to go live to Trey Gangs for an update in the Middle East. He's next. Lincoln aircraft carrier and its crew of 5,000 sailors headed home after a 9-month deployment in the Middle East. As the White House says, the Iran conflict will now focus on maximum economic pressure. Fox News chief foreign correspondent Trey Gangs joins us from Tel Aviv with the very latest. Hello, Trey.
Yeah, hey, Shannon, good morning. The conflict between the United States and Iran has largely shifted to economic warfare as the Trump administration looks to put new pressure on the regime in Tehran. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on Monday is expected to provide new details on a fresh sanctions package against Iran. This does come amid the ongoing U.S. naval blockade and rapidly rising inflation inside of Iran, with Iranian officials warning other countries against participating.
If Trump decides to take further action, our retaliation will be seismic. First, we'll tell all neighboring countries and countries around the world not to join the United States in its economic war. Any country that takes part in imposing economic restrictions on us will be regarded as enemy.
The New York Post reports that maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz is up 400% over the last 2 weeks, as the United States continues to oversee a southern passage through the critical waterway. This passage has allowed for millions of barrels of Gulf crude oil to be exported each day. U.S. military oversight of the strait is happening as the USS Abraham Lincoln is headed home after being deployed for 274 days. The aircraft carrier made its last port call in December, breaking a Navy record. The vessel is being replaced by the Japan-based USS George Washington. The U.S. military presence in the Middle East is expected to remain with no clear path forward in the conflict with Iran, as the president said this about the Islamic Republic.
They are now coming around because there's not much they can say. When a country doesn't have any longer a Navy, an Air Force, radar, technical equipment, manufacturing, their leaders are gone, their second set of leaders are gone, parts of their third set of the leaders. In fact, it's actually one of my biggest problems. I don't know who the hell to deal with. It's a problem.
Remember, President Trump says no talks are currently happening with Iran. This is a game of an economic who blinks first, and the pressure is rising. Shannon?
All right, Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv. Thank you, Trey. We are back now with our panel. Okay, so we're entering the economic pressure phase of this. The president has said, you know, countries in the region who cooperate, there's going to be a massive penalty for you to do it. There's been a lot of discussion about the UAE. The Wall Street Journal editorial board praises this economic crackdown. It says this: the test will lie in what happens to Dubai's Iran-linked exchange houses, money service business, trade companies, and beneficial ownership networks, as well as the movement of cash and high-value goods. Will flights be scrutinized for bulk cash and gold smuggling? A halt to gasoline and refined product exports to Iran would be felt immediately. So, Josh, does this work? Do the countries in the region cooperate? Will it work?
I do think it will work. I mean, look, we've had a lot of success over the years with economic sanctions. I think the military objectives have been met several times over here. The economic piece is something to focus on. We have had, in particular, an ability to stop Iran's proxy funding of terrorism, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the like. I think this picks up and goes a step further in that we're also piggybacking on top of those military gains that we had. Clearly, there's still objectives that need to be met, but I think this is a step in the right direction.
Well, Megan, I've heard a lot of praise the last couple of days from kind of many different political quarters. Even people who are not normally fans of the president are praising some of them in respects to this new plan that's announced by Secretary Bessent and the president.
Yeah, I mean, something has to be done, right? The costs are really high of gasoline, and we're feeling the effects of the strait being closed. So any sanctions or anything they can do to sort of move that ball forward to open up the strait and get our oil prices down and gas prices down is what needs to happen. The question for Democrats, I think, is it too little, too late? Is this really going to impact the midterms? And I think Democrats are counting that it will impact the midterms greatly.
So you've got Mark Thiessen over at the Washington Post saying you do have to consider the kinetic part of this. And he says, you know, Iran could be considering what he called an October surprise. He writes this: the way to take this option off the table is to act first by launching a final decisive blow against the regime. If Trump were to launch a quick and lethal attack on Iran's leadership, economic and energy infrastructure, and nuclear facilities now, he could credibly declare victory months before the midterms. Josh, what do you think of the odds that we return to military action at this point?
I think the president has been signaling that he's open to doing that, but not particularly interested in barking up that tree right now. It's also not clear that even if he wanted to pick up a hammer, that he'd find that many nails to swing at, right? They've done a lot of strikes already. Some of the things that he'd been talking about as an escalation include strikes on bridges and other things that would open him to new criticism. So I think it's just a little unclear. As for the sanctions, we'll be watching very closely what Secretary Bessent says tomorrow. I think the big question here is in part China, right? You know, the president has not been interested in really linking the Iran conflict to Iran's relationship with China, a big trading relationship. Obviously, President Xi did a visit in about a month here with President Trump. I think that's a big one hanging in the middle of this, is, you know, whether the China relationship is complicating the president's outlook on it.
Yeah, and speaking of China, Senator Graham, meaning Darlene Graham, sister of the late Senator Lindsey Graham, took a question on China and Taiwan this week in her debate and admitted, listen, this is not her forte, it was her brother's. But the Wall Street Journal editorial board says this: a Republican running for Senate should be ready to discuss one of this century's most consequential geopolitical questions. Republicans do no favors when they flatter Mr. Trump or characterize Taiwan as a distant question. Quote, of course, Taiwan is our friend, Ms. Graham later said on Fox News, but I think people in South Carolina are more worried about making ends meet. They're concerned about boys and girls sports. Josh, what do you make of this? I mean, it's headed to a runoff down there in South Carolina.
Well, she might be right. I mean, look, if there was one piece of criticism that South Carolina primary voters had about her brother, who was a legend by all regards, it's that he focused almost exclusively at times on foreign policy. Clearly, that's not what she's talking about here. And there's a level of authenticity in her presentation saying, look, that's not my thing. I do think that South Carolina voters are very focused on the domestic side of this, the economy and the like. We'll see. Ultimately, there's an awful lot of skin in the game for President Trump with an early endorsement here. And he is going to be carrying an awful lot of weight. Lindsey Graham was an incredible senator from South Carolina, but he worked very hard to get elected each and every election. She's going to have to do the same.
Okay, I want to get to another hot spot in foreign policy, and this has to do with the trade war between the U.S. and China, or not China, that's a different one, but we're talking about Canada and the U.S. Everybody has their tariff battles going on right now. But talks fell apart on Friday. I want to play a little bit of what Prime Minister Mark Carney had to say about that.
Well, we believed earlier this week that we were moving towards a mutually beneficial agreement. In recent days, the United States proposed new terms that were uneconomic, unfair, and undermined the net benefits for Canada and called into question the reliability of any deal.
So Josh, as our resident Canadian, I go to you first. I mean, both sides are pointing the finger, and it fell apart Friday. Where do we go now? Because they say there are no talks scheduled moving forward.
Well, thank you for the invitation before this happened. I'm happy to serve as the emergency Canadian in a pinch here. Look, our sources are saying the talks fell apart over auto rules specifically. The Trump administration did not want to lower tariffs on medium and heavy duty trucks. The Canadians felt that that was a bit cute and were demanding that. But, you know, this has been going on a long time. The president's comments about Canada being the 51st state or maybe wanting to have really enraged Canadians. I don't think people really register the public mood up there. And now we're, you know, spiraling to a potential trade war. Prime Minister Carney has announced that on September 8th, there will be new tariffs. There's a window, I suppose, to negotiate before then, and we'll see what happens. Trump is expected to retaliate if that happens, and we could get into a big spiral. Canada and the U.S. have an incredibly large trading relationship. Canada is the biggest customer of U.S. exports. This would be bad for consumers and manufacturers on both sides of the border. No one is making any bones about that. So we'll see where it goes if they can get back to the table. But I think President Trump is coming into this with obviously a much larger economy, but a much lower sort of political station. His polling isn't particularly strong right now, whereas every time he attacks Prime Minister Carney, his polling goes up, up, up. And so they're on different political footing right now, and also different economic footing, and that's what makes it tough to game out what the next steps are going to be.
Well, our trade rep said in part on Friday night, Canada declined to finalize the trade deal under the terms agreed earlier this week. So the position from the administration is going to be that they're protecting U.S. interests. Yes. We'll see where this goes from here. Panel, thank you very much. He is, by the way, one of the most exciting IndyCar drivers racing today. He's in the hunt for the championship, but stopping by to chat with us before today's crucial race. And then my high adrenaline spin around the track. Join me inside that IndyCar as I hold on for dear life. Coming up. To preview today's historic race, one of IndyCar's stars, Pato O'Ward, who drives for Arrow McLaren. Welcome to Fox News Sunday.
Thank you for the invitation.
Okay, so pre-race vibes. How does it feel at this moment?
Pretty surreal, I have to say. I mean, I think I can speak on behalf of everybody from IndyCar. We never thought that we were going to be racing here anytime in 2026. I mean, this kind of just, you know, it obviously came about quite quickly at the end of last year. And I mean, this is the second biggest event on our calendar, obviously outside of the Indy 500. That's a pretty big event.
Yes, it is.
And it's awesome to be at a place where everyone's excited. Like, I mean, everywhere you walk around, even from getting here on Wednesday, people are excited to come here. Everyone's excited that we're here, and I mean, it's a pretty picturesque backdrop.
Yeah, you're making history here, and so this is your first time to DC too.
Yeah, first time to DC, and I keep hearing little rumbles here and there that they want this to repeat.
Dude,
I've heard it's a one and done. So
I've heard both too, but I think that there's a real appetite for it here. I mean, DC's used to hosting big events. We've never done something like this, but it feels like it's a really special course. I got a chance to go, and now I understand.
Did you go on the two-seater?
I did, and I understand how this can be very addicting.
Feel the bumps?
This need for speed. Yeah, you started out young. You actually went to a go-kart race for some of your cousins, and you thought to yourself, I could do better, right?
Yeah.
Like we all think at home sitting watching a race, like, oh, I could do that. But
yeah.
This is, you know, a really elite thing that you're doing.
No, absolutely. And I mean, the way that I function is anything that I do, doesn't matter if it's in racing, doesn't matter if it's, you know, in business or something like that. Even with, you know, relationships with people, like you always try and give out quality, and you always try and make sure that you keep the best ones around, the best relationships, the best things that add to your life, right? And the ones that truly you want to be around to become better and all that stuff. I'm a true believer in you are what you surround yourself with, and I feel like you know, this is a perfect example of where we want IndyCar to go. We want events that look like this. We want suites that look like this. We want this to be the standard.
So let me ask you about this race, because you guys do traditional, what people would think of a traditional oval kind of race, but you do street races, courses like that too. How is that different for you as a driver? this kind of race?
Yeah, I mean, obviously IndyCar does all types of racetracks. We do street courses like this. We do the road courses. We do the ovals, super speedways and short ovals. We actually do a lot more of these and road courses over than the ovals, but I feel like people don't resonate that the Indy 500 is the same, same cars that can do this one. But I love what they all have to offer, and it really is a fantastic opportunity. Whenever you try and win IndyCar Championship, you gotta be good at all of them. Otherwise, that doesn't come to fruition for you.
Right, and I can tell physically how demanding it is on you guys just doing a couple laps here to think about the hours that you sit in that car. And today's going to be a long race. Fox Sports reports this. The race at 250 miles is the longest street race since some of the early Cleveland airport races in the mid-1980s. The race will likely be close to 3 hours instead of the usual 2 hours. So how does that impact your strategy as a driver, your pit strategy?
You gotta be, first of all, well hydrated. Speaking of, I need to go hydrate right after this.
Maybe take a drink from your special Fox News Sunday mug. We got a little water for you in there.
It's so much. It's so much that goes into a race. We're thinking 4 stops, which is quite a bit of stops for a street course race. But it's gonna get physical out there. It's gonna get physical out there. It's gonna be tough. But it's just what we've got.
Is this race relatively wide, would you say, for a street course race? Is this what you're used to dealing with? Because just taking that, couple laps, to me, the question is, how do you even pass on a course like this?
There is one zone that is very wide. That's the exit of turn 4 into turn 5. I would say from turn 4 to turn 5 is like the widest straightaway that we have. All these other ones are, I would say, pretty standard width to what we're used to when we go to Detroit, Toronto, all that stuff.
Well, DC has definitely got IndyCar fever, so thank you for checking in.
You got IndyCar fever?
I do 100%. I want to drive now, just being a passenger, but we're going to have more on that coming up. Have a great race today. Thanks for stopping in.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I actually did get to break in the track. That hair-raising ride that I took, that experience is coming up next. Indy 250 comes to the streets of DC. They wouldn't let me drive, but Connor is going to take me for a ride. We'll see how that goes next.
I always thought that I was...
What a great song. All right, the food industry reportedly could lose $55 billion per year by 2030, thanks to the popularity of weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy. So new data shows 1 in 5 U.S. households currently take GLP-1s. 55 million Americans are expected to be on those drugs by 2035. Users consume roughly 20% fewer calories and spend less money on junk food and snacks.
Ever since I started my GLP-1 journey, my grocery bill has been crazy cheap.
When your food noise is quiet and you're eating smaller portions, you don't spend the same kind of money on snacks, takeout, or random food runs.
But I would say my grocery bill has probably been cut in half. A, I'm not spending as much money, and B, I'm spending money on quality things that...
Rich, I like this. I don't see a problem with it. Listen, I know that there are of course, some downsides to these GLP-1s. They affect people in different ways. But if people are eating healthier, they're spending less money, they're eating fewer calories, they're not eating as much junk food, I have a hard time crying tears for the food industry that wants to pump people full of crap.
Yeah, and you want to talk about the financial incentive on this. If one industry is losing money, what's gaining money is the American taxpayer and those who have to finance the healthcare system, or even not in a taxpayer sense, but just if you have health insurance, it costs us all money. Obesity is a very, very expensive thing. And so anytime that you can address that type of a healthcare issue, it saves the whole system. It's a win-win.
Yeah. Alicia, again, I understand that this doesn't work for everybody, and I'm not saying everyone should rush and get on these things, but it seems to be that they're helping a lot of people, and they can be taken to an extreme, and we've got a lot of issues to discuss about body issues, especially with young women, but in terms of the people that are using them and they're exercising, they're living a healthy lifestyle, but they're just cutting out some of the junk that they were munching on just out of boredom or what have you, this kind of seems like a revolution to me.
Yeah, I totally agree, Tommy. It's also kind of falls into MAHA as well. People are eating more fresh food, healthier food. So I think that, you know, this definitely is a big part of it. I don't know if it's entirely to blame. I think people are trying to live healthier lives because we have so much more information now. We know that it's better not to put all of these chemicals into our body. And yeah, same. It's hard to be sad about it.
Yeah. Joey, you eat pretty healthy. Sometimes you eat rice that's been sitting out for hours, which we try to warn you about. To no avail. But listen, I think people eating less junk food overall, probably a good thing.
Yeah, I'm 100% for this. I remember way back when, I think it was Bloomberg outlawed the big gulp up here, and a lot of Republicans were real upset about it, and I get that. You got to have the choice to make bad decisions. That's freedom. But maybe he was ahead of the curve on that one. Maybe there was something behind it that made more sense. Maybe even all the criticism over Michelle Obama's lunch menus, maybe that wasn't as warranted. I'd have to go back and relitigate it because I don't remember all the nuance. I just remember that was a big deal. At the end of the day, what MAHA has done is it's been another part of that Trump MAGA bigger tent, bringing in people who really didn't identify as socially conservative or even fiscally conservative, but bringing them into the fold to that almost libertarian vein of, listen, big government isn't always the best for you. And sometimes if you can afford to eat better yourself, you don't need Medicare for all because then you're not as sick all the time. One of the things on here that I read this article about it, and they said that food companies have relied on a proven playbook, which is basically to pump you full of sugar and salt and get you addicted to things. It's 100% true. I've been eating this clean meal prep thing for a couple of weeks now, and I have just regular sweet potato. It's only seasoned with a little bit of salt, and it tastes like candy because I've stayed away from processed sugar as much as I could for the last couple of weeks. And just in a couple of weeks, and they say, was it 10 days to break an addiction? And sugar is one of the most addictive things out there. I think it will do a lot of people because the only reason this drug exists, well, one of the reasons this drug exists is that people have ate so badly and that processed sugar for so long, they needed it to right their system. So, you know, I think it's a great thing, but you have to make good food affordable, and that's the other side of it.
Good points made by all. All right, coming up. Democrats are entering their thirst trap era with unbuttoned shirts and some cringe dancing. Plus, the Freedom 250 Grand Prix winner has been crowned. Kyle Kirkwood himself took the checkered flag, and he joins us tonight for the big close-up.
Hey, I'm Dr. Drupinski. I've been looking at
the checkered flag. Kyle Kirkwood wins an American on the top step of the podium at the Freedom 250.
This is incredible. I'm almost in tears here. This is a big moment for us. Big moment for America here, the 250.
I can't think of a better photo op at the top of the podium than the one that Kyle Kirkwood's going to get here with the Capitol in the background.
A big moment indeed. Kyle Kirkwood made history today as the winner of the inaugural Freedom 250 Grand Prix. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second hour of tonight's big weekend show. Kirkwood took the lead early in the race, and well, he didn't look back. He drove his number 27 Sam's Club Honda to a 3-second victory over second-place finisher Christian Lundgaard and led 128 of the 147 laps. That's called dominating. He finished the roughly 250-mile race in just 2 hours and 40 minutes and 42 seconds. And joining us now for tonight's big close-up is the, I think we can say, champion of the 2026 Freedom 250 Grand Prix, Kyle Kirkwood. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations, of course. I have questions, but I'd love to just give you a chance to tell our audience how you feel right now.
Well, first of all, thank you guys so much for having me on. I mean, it hasn't really settled in yet, right? Like, I won the race, I get out of the car, I see President Trump sitting there cheering me on. As a proud American, that's a pretty big deal to have the president cheering you on. Nothing else like it, right? But that was not an easy race. 147 laps is about double the distance that we typically do on street courses like this. And it's about 90 degrees outside. The humidity is pretty high. You can expect about 30 30 degrees hotter in one of the cockpits of one of these Indy cars than the ambient temperature is. So it was brutally hot for us. It was physical, it was hard, it was bumpy. We had everything thrown at us, but fortunate to come home with the win.
Kyle, was you happy as well that an American won? Because you just have to. When you've got an America 250, we have to have an American win the dang thing. Also, just picking up on what you said about it being the street race and some of the different factors, how did the track itself or the street itself compare to other races that you've done in a similar
I
style?
got you some adorbs. Do what? I got you some adorbs.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll have to take that off my list of things to get.
There you go.
That's nice.
Turn me back up, honey.
Or the monument or the Capitol building. That's pretty hard around here, right? In the closing stages of that race, it was hard for me to not focus on winning and what it was going to mean to win as American. I had to get locked back in because very small mistakes have huge consequences around a street course like this. But the circuit itself was amazing. They did a phenomenal job setting this up. Bud Danker, IndyCar, everyone involved. They built this thing beautifully, and we would love to come back, if I'm being honest, because I think this was the best street course race I've ever been a part of. The event as a whole, 100,000 people here on a raffle, free tickets for everybody. The event was incredible. So I hope we can come back here. I hope this is the new normal for IndyCar. But this was a major event for us, and to be able to win as an American, like I've said, is a dream come true.
Hey Kyle, it's Rich Edson here. Thanks so much for joining us and congratulations on the win. And if you're going to be in DC for the next few days, I'll be back home. If you can teach me how to drive stick, that'd be really cool. But I understand you're a little busy. But in the meantime, like when you got out of the car today, I mean, did it kind of hit you where you were? I know you're so focused on driving in the race and those 147 laps. I mean, like you're in it, but when you hit that moment of like, dude, I'm between the Washington Monument and the Capitol building. I mean, did you talk about that with your team? And then separately on the racing side of it, was it also like, did the race course match and the conditions match how cool it was to be driving around the monuments?
It did, and to answer your first question, it's like I've said, it's hard to look at the optics from the outside. You're only really focused as a driver on your marks. That's your brake references. That's where the walls are out, where your apex point is, where you want to exit, and making sure you don't hit any of those concrete walls, because any small mistake, like I've said, it's got huge consequence, right? So you don't really have time to look at it. But on the cool down lap and maybe that last lap, I took it all in. I looked around, realized where I'm at. Made me appreciate this place even more, and having all the fans cheer me on in those final stages of that race was absolutely incredible. Yeah, there's nothing else like it. And then to your second question, the hype was real about this event. The track was great, like I've said. It was a little bumpy, but I mean, you can expect that around historic streets like Pennsylvania Avenue here, right? Or going in front of the Capitol building. So that's to be expected. We race in those conditions a lot. So it was nothing new to us. It just added some character, is what I like to say.
Kyle, it's Alicia Acuna here, and also congratulations once again. No doubt there were a lot of young people watching the race today, and I'm just curious, when you come across young race fans, those who want to one day be like you, what do you tell them? What do you tell them it takes?
It takes perseverance. It takes determination. It's passion too. As a young driver, I never thought I'd ever make it as far as I ever did. But the love for the sport, the passion that I've had for motorsports has propelled me to new levels. One thing about motor racing is it's a very small community, whether it's Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, sports cars, whatever it might be. Everybody kind of knows everybody, and people talk. And when you push hard and you work hard for everything, good things happen to good people that put in the efforts. And if you're willing to do that and you have that passion, then you can go a long way.
You know, Kyle, you drive for one of the great racing families this country has put out there in many disciplines when it comes to the Andretti family, Andretti Motorsport. But with that being said, you've probably been around, you've seen Indianapolis 500. They drink milk, put the wreath on. That's a great, unique celebration. I have to imagine if we can keep this race going, the onus would be on every president to present this trophy, right? Like that would have to be the tradition. That would have to be what makes this unique, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I couldn't lift the trophy today. I saw it, they said it's about 55 pounds. At the end of the race, my shoulders are cooked from driving all day. There was no chance I was lifting it, so they left it on the podium there for us. It was an amazing trophy, right? I was actually touching the top of it, it's super sharp. But yeah, I mean, there's so many traditions here. I mean, we had 7 flyovers, B-2 bombers, F-22s. I can't even name all the planes that we had today. It was an American event. It wasn't just an IndyCar race. It was a full-on event for 100,000 people that came out here, and for everybody that's watching at home on TV.
Well, Kyle, I think it's safe to say, at least among the Fox audience, you've made a lot of fans for Kyle Kirkwood and IndyCar, and congratulations on your win, and here's to many more. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir. All right, joining us now for more reaction to the Freedom 250 Grand Prix is Fox News contributor and Outkick founder, Clay Travis. Clay, I'm pretty sure you listened in on that interview. He said he could barely lift the trophy. President Trump and First Lady presented it to him. Man, I feel like this really does need to become an American tradition.
I do too. I thought it was awesome. I watched some of it on television myself, as many across the country did. And guys, I jotted down as I was waiting. I may have missed something, but first of all, this is an awesome, cool America 250 event. But I think also this ties in with President Trump may be the biggest sports fan that we've ever seen in the White House. Listen to what he's done just so far in his second administration. Went to the Super Bowl, first sitting president to ever attend the Super Bowl. Went to the NBA Finals, first sitting president to ever attend the NBA Finals. Went to the Indiana-Miami College Football National Title game. Presented the trophy at the World Cup Final just up in the New York area recently. Just had the 250 Indy race, first time ever in Washington, D.C. He's been to Daytona with the NASCAR race. He went to the NCAA Wrestling Championships in Philadelphia. I was there and got to watch it with him. Army, Navy, and the UFC at the White House. Remember, he's got the 2028 Olympics still to go. You got that graphic up there. This may be the greatest sports calendar of any president of all time, and also the Ryder Cup, and not to mention a few of the live golf events as well that I can think of right off the top of my head. This is incredible. I mean, he's basically living every sports fan's dream, and it's not fake. This is a guy who was obsessed with sports. He called me on Friday, wanted to talk about sports. Last time I was in the Oval Office with him, he wanted to talk about the worst trades of all time. This is where he goes, I think, to escape serious things in life, and I think the country benefits.
You know, Clay, it's Rich, if you look at politicians in sports, right, it's not so simple to say, you just got to go to games, you just got to talk about sports, because how many times have you seen politicians throw out a first pitch that's been pathetic? How many times have you seen, I mean, if you remember back, was it 2004 campaign where John Kerry said that a guy named Manny Ortiz played for the Red Sox? You got to be, you got to do it right?
Well, I think authenticity matters. If you don't love sports, that's fine. I think when you get in trouble is when you try to fake it. And sports fans know immediately if you're trying to fake whether or not you're a fan, because
and Trump is no fake. He's the real thing.
And I think President Trump speaks the sports fan language. And where does this tie in? You might say politically, what's the impact here? I don't think it's coincidental, guys, that in the 2024 election, the most effective ad he ran was that she's for they, them, meaning Kamala, he's for you. That ran on every single football game that I watched in September and October. It was one of the most effective political ads of all time, because sports fans got it. They understood that analogy when it comes to men and women's sports, and it's a sort of what I would say a foundational level. If you can't trust somebody on whether a man can become a woman or whether a man can win a women's sports championship, how can I trust you on taxes or immigration or anything else?
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up, Clay, because we're about to get into it. I want to get your take on the latest WNBA drama. So how sad is this? Security is reportedly tight ahead of tonight's Fever Sky game in Chicago after the chaos outside the Fever Liberty game in Brooklyn last night. Take a look.
Trans lives matter! Trans lives matter! Trans lives matter! Trans lives matter! Trans lives matter!
What are they saying?
Trans lives matter.
So Outkick is reporting that Liberty displayed messages welcoming transgender fans inside, but a paid message thanking XXXY Athletics founder Jennifer Say never made it to the scoreboard. I wonder how that happened. Well, the team edited it without her consent and refunded her money when she objected. Liberty says scoreboard messages must be, quote, positive and celebratory. Fox Digital reached out for a comment. We have not received a response. There's so many places we could go with this, Clay, but I think I'd like to start with this. We have to have heightened security outside of WNBA games due to the fact that you've got these screaming banshees saying trans lives matter, but then being very aggressive towards people who just say, I want women to have their own sports.
Yeah, look, this is a broken brain situation. Ultimately, here is the question, right? If you want to pick a side, right, would you rather be on the side of a woman who should have the right to play women's sports and enter women's locker rooms without men pretending to be women in that locker room? Or do you want to allow men identifying as women to take over women's places in women's sports? This is one of the craziest stories that I can possibly imagine that is not going to go away. And what it really boils down to is the question of what is a woman, right? And the WNBA, which is the Women's National Basketball Association, cannot allow itself to define what a woman is. And this is really important. I hope they clip it. I hope they share it. For all of these women out there that claim to be feminists, why are you so quick to give up womanhood to men pretending to be women? To me, maybe I'm wrong on this, the most misogynistic thing that a man could do is pretend to be a woman and take away a woman's spot on a sporting event, or even take away a women's championship like we saw Leah Thomas do.
Clay, it's Alicia Acuna here. I'm curious about the future of the WNBA. If they can't figure out how to get a handle on this and move forward without needing, as Tommy mentioned, extra security outside their games, all of this messaging going on inside, and people pushing back, the league itself pushing back on those who come forward and say, but boys shouldn't play in girls' sports. Where does this go from here?
Well, they're in a tough spot because two men who were former first-round NBA draft picks, Royce White and Enes Kanter Freedom, have already declared for the WNBA draft in April of next year. If woman is not going to be defined to exclude men, which it appears they're not willing to do, then the WNBA will cease to exist. It'll just become the NBA G League. All the players would become male because the women now make a lot of money.
All right. Clay Travis, well, if they do get into the WNBA, I think there's a team called the Nashville Balls in the works that might want to recruit them and have quite the team. All right, Clay Travis, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Most inclusive team ever, Joey.
We'll look forward to it. Tommy, in all seriousness, though, Clay kind of hits the nail on the head. He's kind of known for that, not mincing his words. It's not very feminist to want men to come in and take opportunities away from women.
I mean, that's the definition of the patriarchy, right?
Yeah.
When you're saying, oh, I know that you had that thing, but we think we're better at it, so we're going to wear a dress and some lip gloss, and we're now going to take your spots, and also we're going to barge into your bathrooms and your locker rooms because you don't deserve those spaces just for you either. I mean, that is the patriarchy, which I was told that the feminists really wanted to destroy. So this is also nonsensical. I will say, I think President Trump needs to go to a WNBA game. I think just do it. He's been to all these other events. Why not go to a WNBA game at this point, right? I mean, really shake things up. I think, Rich, wouldn't that be something to behold?
He might get a different reception than he did at the race today. But
he wouldn't care.
Yeah, probably not.
You know, that is one thing about President Trump. He has been willing to go whether the crowd's friendly or not, because you do hear him booed sometimes depending on the venue. But you know, just to take this conversation back to President Trump, that is the sleeper issue from 2024. That was the sleeper issue that became the big issue. The now, I guess, infamous on one side, famous on the other ad of she's for they, them, and I'm for you. That was a big difference maker.
And it's still here, even after what happened with Democrats in 2024. I'd like to address the person who was saying trans lives matter, trans lives matter. That is not what this is about. This isn't about whether or not trans lives matter. It is about whether women can play in women's sports and feel safe, and it's a fair game that they play against other women. Was the second I heard that, I was like, that's not.
Yeah, but that's their game. That's their playbook. They move the goalposts around, and that's what they call it, this big tent party, to the point that the alphabet army is starting to drop the T out of it because they're like, you're not really advocating for what we are. All right, still ahead. ICE operation swept Los Angeles as multiple criminal illegal aliens were arrested, with one giving a shocking statement right to us here at Fox News. Plus a Fox News alert, the Lindsay Clancy murder trial is wrapping up as closing arguments are expected this week. Criminal defense attorney Josh Ritter joins us next as the final witnesses are set to take the stand. There he is.
Well, maybe if you go at an off
During the
time.
daytime, yeah.
Yeah.
They say it's really good.
I didn't get a picture of the church here, Jim.
Oh no. Well, hold on. Get ready. I can't stop though. I'll tell you what, I'll go that way. Because I like to see where we are with Publix. Hang on, kids.
Stay out in the center here and I'll get a picture.
I can't. I'll be right where I am.
Okay.
Okay, kids. Are you ready for this? That Community Pentecostal Church? Something came up on my phone this morning. People were great. The church folks.
Yeah, that's where my brother-in-law, Jackie Robinson, started his preaching career right there. I think I mentioned that before, but I keep mentioning it. He's in heaven now. This is Cherokee Shopping Center here.
We were told that little drug shop there is a really nice place to pop into for greeting cards.
Oh, it's great just to go shop.
And Timmy said there's all kinds of old-fashioned candy there that we used to get as kids.
I like that place.
I haven't been there at all. We need to pop in there one day, John.
Yeah, and down here's the street that Gil started preaching at years ago. And a little church down here on Persimmon Drive there. We love to listen to the radio station, WIOK 107.5 FM on the radio dial, Tri-State Gospel. Post Office Box 50, Falmouth, Kentucky, 41040 zip code. Gil and Jan Hammond. 35 years of gospel music and sermons and great news. I encourage everybody to listen and learn and become friends with Gil and Jan Hammond and the radio station. Randy and I will be going this coming Friday evening to Fairhaven Rescue Mission, and they just celebrated their golf outing fundraiser, so we'll be filming and singing for raising a few funds for in fact, I'll be taking a little check down to them from June and I down for the Fairhaven Rescue Mission. Their golf outing was a very successful one. We'll be talking about that on the show that we filmed down there singing. And then hopefully Randy and I will have a couple of other singers join us to sing a little bit and read some words from the Lord. In Jesus' name we ask it. Amen.
Here it comes.
Yeah. They'll work on the public's house.
Check it out.
Nice construction. Nice landscaping, looks like.
I'd say they're getting close.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
They did a lot. They're still doing a lot of landscaping there.
I'm sure they'll hurt Kroger's for a while.
Yeah, people will come out of curiosity, I would think, don't you?
And then there'll be a lot of people that will like it better than Kroger's.
Well, competition is good in the free market system. A little competition.
I
Wonder what the others.
These other stores are.
I don't know. I was just wondering who will go in
One
there.
of them will probably be a liquor store.
No doubt. There's a drive-through. Esther, when did you say the Goodwill store's projected to open?
January 1st. That's what the other Goodwill told my daughter. She goes
Got a thing, projected forecast for the whole Midwest, and we're part of it.
Graduates this year.
Okay.
And she's going to Scotland.
Oh, that's right.
You know, she leaves the 2nd of September and she'll be there till the week before Christmas.
What a wonderful experience.
Yeah, I know.
What about your daughter's boys?
They're all good, guys. They're all grown. Now Travis, the special needs one.
Yeah.
He works at Kroger's. He bags groceries.
You know what? I kept looking at this kid and thinking, I know him. Now
Travis is his name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to know that.
He's a good